I do appreciate you showing me the way to the Phoenix Nest, Spike.
Anything for you, Rarity. Besides, I've been meaning to visit Pee-wee.
Pee-wee? Wow, what a callback to Dragon Quest. As in Pee-wee the Phoenix chick Spike rescued from Garble and the other teen dragons?
Pee-wee!
Dragon episode! So right off the bat, I'm super excited for this episode as it immediately addresses some previous shoutouts from episodes that I felt best represented Spike the most, giving me a proper hint we're likely in for another great episode with our favorite purple dragon. Did I just say that aloud? But sadly, the knockback can't be focused on when something unexpected happens to Spike, scaring Pee-wee away with odd, itchy, and painful blemishes on his face, leading up to what later explanation from Smolder will tell us is basic dragon puberty. Granted, I'm not sure what's to come of this other than a few things. Is Spike going to get taller? Maybe his voice will drop. Will he get wings? No, he'd never get wings. Why would he? Going back to G1 for their next movie premiere, it was planned by producers to have Spike look more grown up, displaying wings to better distinguish himself from the pony's cute factor, and to indicate that time between Megan and the characters had passed. Unfortunately, the idea was scrapped out of the concern that Spike would look too scary for kids as a grown-up dragon, and thus lose chance to market for the cute dragon toy line options. So it was okay to have ponies be turned into rabid dragon monsters and escape from Midnight Castle by a red-faced evil centaur, but having Spike with wings is where Hasbro draws the line? Le gasp! But enough of that, we got a plot host to address like...
Phoenixes aren't meant to be domesticated. Even in the wild, they like to keep to themselves.
Oh yes, I guess someone forgot to tell Celestia about that with her pet.
There's Pee-wee's parents!
Wasn't their nest originally located in the Dragonlance?
Ah, the feathers of that bird can affect ponies' ears. It's a magic ailment I've treated for years.
Okay, how many plot holes are going to be made in this episode? Ugh. Well, let's try to focus on the positives at least. I like how Twilight, despite having her concerns about Spike's sudden comeuppance, but still keep true to her sister-like stature. She was concerned and made suggestions of what Spike could do about his condition, but even she knew he couldn't stay in the castle with his random spurts of fire indigestion. I mean, fire in a castle? Let alone a school with children? That's dangerous! Good on you, Twilight, for thinking about safety. The sudden issue that kept coming up with Spike, from the random fire breath to sudden silent and loud outbursts of his voice, the terrible itchy scales, and a horrible smell to boot, really put in the humor and yet audience's sympathy for his character. We've all gone through our unique transformations from childhood to adulthood. Yeesh, I remember when mine started at age 13. My point is, the sudden changes for young kids or teens can be scary and not make much sense to us, and they can come out of nowhere, and that's what I admire about Spike's situation. It felt believable and downright uncomfortable to have to sit through, but the episode lowers that problem by offering us opportunities of humor with the shenanigans of what his condition does to him. It's even more relieving once Smolder comes into the picture and explains to Spike what he's going through is called the Molt. Finally, more dragon facts for us viewers to learn and understand. I especially love this moment even more when they touch back on how Spike grew from his greed on in Season 2, which was induced from Dragon's thirst for treasure, to which Smolder explains that's not considered a normal part of dragon life cycle. So many callbacks and explanations tied in. Thank you, episode!
A molter's loved ones kicks them out at the first stone scale. I think it's biological. I told you about the smell. That mold stench is a magnet for predators. Tatzelworms, hydras, rocks.
To hate with this. Twink the mirror! my gosh, aren't you the cutest whittle biddle rainbow dragon? Ugh. Sorry folks, but I've had it up to here with the dragon species in My Little Pony Generation 4. I mean, it's bad enough they have a dragon lord that can call them at a beck and call, make them fly or serve at a moment's notice, but to abandon their young at their most vulnerable because they smell and attract other predators? I get it, one shouldn't judge others by their culture differences, but this is flat out child abandonment here. Dragons are not. Smolder biologically states that they are simply built that way and it's just normal stage in a dragon life. I would accept this fact no problem if dragons weren't sentient though. For example, it's been scientifically proven that some animals will abandon their young if they feel they cannot survive on normal circumstances. In fact, it's one of the biggest struggles with panda breeding in human care as well as for clouded leopards. Any signs of unhealthiness or a sense of weakness and the mother will abandon their young, forcing their caregivers to intervene and try to save the infant to protect the species. But in the show, dragons are clearly displayed as intelligent beings with a culture and government system, so biologically claiming they can up and abandon their children sounds despicable to me as well as downright lazy. There's no government influence to invoke such cruelty. One large adult dragon would be more than enough to take on predators that would be attracted to the scent of their maturing young with relative ease. Hydras? Rocks? The previous Dragon Lord was double the size of the Hydra, easily. It's frustrating to think that this has become one of my biggest complaints about the show, how some of the different cultures in Equestria are being handled. If dragons are going to represent a system where it's okay to use biological reasons to abandon their children at a moment's notice of puberty, then I find it hard to be sympathetic to the characters like Smolder or even Ember. Sure, now they are making steps to improve their kind by learning about friendship, but the fact that these traditions are still happening amongst dragons really disturbs me. Imagine if all the ponies in Equestria thought this way. They'd more likely abandon their young immediately upon discovering they are unicorns. Have you seen what the Cake Twins have done? Young magical ponies are flat out dangerous. But sure enough, while Spike and Rarity are visiting Zecora, a rock creature, as Smolder described, how convenient episode, decided to swoop down to make Spike's its next meal and ends up grabbing Zecora and Rarity instead. Twilight later shows up conveniently to help since Spike's condition is keeping him from doing much other than to run and itch up until this. This episode a little bit more enjoyable? If Smolder simply told Spike the Molt was temporary in the first place! Meltdown in general isn't a terrible episode. It has several callbacks to previous episodes Spike has been involved with, has helped to strengthen his understanding of dragon culture better, and it even provided him opportunities to show off his loyalty to his friends even when the odds were against him. The moments with his constant fire belches, losing volume in his voice, and the degrading body positions to relieve his itchiness gave great facial expressions, not to himself, but also those around him that were affected by it. Seriously, Twilight's face when he burned her lecture was one of my favorites. But what takes away the higher rating for me is the fact that I learned a rather dark side to dragons, and it feels like it's given me more reason to dislike the civilization. While in reality, some animals will abandon their young upon instinct, those are animals that do not have a culture or state of government or intelligence to comprehend anything else other than to survive. Here we have fictional culture willingly abandoning their young based off biological reasons that are weak at best when considering their predators are next to none when it comes to facing dragon adults. I simply find the reasonings behind forcing young dragons to leave because of their smell and attracting predators to be cruel and cold-hearted. Instead of going for this route of dragon culture, why not have it made a temporary test state for young dragons to come of age and learn to live on their own while the parents kept watch from a distance? Or better yet, Have the dragons that are molting leave the nest so they can better improve by distancing themselves from their parents, allowing them to gain new perspective of their choice, and not make the culture itself look diabolical as a whole. The episode certainly wasn't one of my favorites, but I can still say I'm happy to see that Hasbro finally decided to give Spike his wings after over 3 decades of My Little Pony existence. And look at that, Hasbro, he's still a cute, adorable little dragon. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I would deeply appreciate the support and would love to hear from you. Keep an eye out for those rainbows. They will make you smile.